What does the killing of the Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri mean for the future of the terror group and its affiliates around the world? That is the question that many observers are now asking after a US drone strike killed the Al-Qaeda chief in the Afghan capital Kabul on Sunday. Well, one of those observers watching closely is former diplomat Charles Hollis, who led the UK's Middle East delegation at the UN, and we can bring him in now. Charles, great to have you with us here on Euronews. I think it's fair to say that other terrorist networks, organisations will have been watching this development very closely, especially when it comes to eyeing territory, I guess. So what could this mean for them? What could we perhaps expect next?
I think what we can expect next is that, as you say, other terrorist groups are going to be aware that America and the West are continuing to be vigilant about their location, and they'll need to take care. I think al-Zawahiri, who had been in Afghanistan for a number of months and presumably felt he was secure there. He was under the protection, it seems, of at least some elements of the Taliban regime linked to the Haqqani network. This is certainly going to be a wake-up call for terrorists and jihadists around the world that they are continuing to be watched and monitored.
I think it's a really interesting point you make there about the fact that, questions are being asked as to just how much the Taliban knew about the presence of al-Zawahiri there in Kabul. And so what do you then expect from them, of course, bearing in mind that the Taliban has been trying to interact on a global stage with international governments around the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a bit of a bind to some extent, but, the links with Al-Qaeda go back for decades, and our assessment at Torchlight AI is that, frankly, they're not going to, at least covertly, separate their links with Al-Qaeda. I think the Taliban regime is not entirely uniform, but the extremist elements like the Haqqani networks have very deep and long-standing links, and we don't believe that they will sever their ties with Al-Qaeda or even try and reduce their presence there. They may try and hide it a bit, but the links and the sort of the shared ideology are very long-standing.
And Charles, what about Al-Qaeda then itself? Where does the death of its leader actually leave the organisation and its plans?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in a bind, clearly, because there's no absolute slam-dunk successor. I think everyone is looking at Saif al-Adil, who is operationally extremely experienced. He's been involved in a number of terror attacks, and he was the interim leader of Al-Qaeda following the death of bin Laden.
All right, Charles Hollis, a former diplomat who led the UK's Middle East delegation at the United Nations. Great to hear your thoughts. Thanks for coming on.